Okay, hi everybody. Hello and welcome to the inaugural meeting for Cure California. We're all so glad to have all of you here with us today. In this meeting, we aim to introduce you to our organization and mission, give you an idea of how Cure California is structured, as well as give you an overview of some of the projects we hope to get started on. Some of you may already be familiar with Cure California, but many of you might not be, and you may have never heard of us before or our parent organization, National Cure. So just to give you a little intro, we are a new state chapter of the nonprofit network called Citizens United for the Rehabilitation of Errants. We are a grassroots organization made up entirely of hardworking and dedicated volunteers. Several months ago, a larger group of us came together to start this organization. Initially, we kind of went straight to work on the criminal justice reform issues that we're all so passionate about. However, perhaps because of that passion, we didn't quite realize how important it would be to set up an organizational framework for Cure California so that the work could continue regardless of the ebb and flow of member involvement. So we decided to regroup and spend some time doing that organizational and administrative work. That's what we've been doing for the last 6 months or so. And now we are very excited to announce our organization's relaunch and reintroduce ourselves to you all. Before we get to our speakers, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about who we are. So as I said, we're a grassroots organization. We aim to reduce crime through the reformation of the criminal justice system. We at Cure California firmly believe that the negative effects of mass incarceration and mass reentry are severe, long-lasting, and outweigh the supposed benefits of a criminal justice system that primarily emphasizes retribution and punitive punishment. Mass criminalization interrupts lives, fractures families and communities, creates cycles of imprisonment, and perpetuates homelessness, to name just a few of the problems. In contrast to this current punitive system, we at Cure California believe in restorative justice. We fight for criminal justice reform by advocating for changes in state penal policy, as well as changes in procedures at the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And there you just saw my cat jump out of the closet. Little background entertainment for everyone. We also provide information and resources on important topics to incarcerated folks and other system impacted individuals, their families, allies, and policymakers. So there's a lot of meaningful work to be done, and we hope that you'll want to join us. And today, I'm very excited to say that we are lucky to have Charlie Sullivan here with us, one of the founders of Cure. Although we're just getting started with our state chapter, Cure has a long and inspiring history. Our first speaker is Charlie Sullivan. He's the director and founder of Cure National, which is our parent organization. Charlie and his wife, Pauline, founded Cure in Texas back in 1972. What started as a modest vision has grown into a worldwide grassroots organization led all by volunteers who are very passionate to bring about meaningful change to various criminal justice systems. I'd like to now invite Charlie to speak for a few minutes on the history of Cure and how it all started. So Charlie, if you wouldn't mind.
Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say that our co-founder, Pauline Sullivan, is over in the corner on my left shoulder. So she's there. And she's the one, when you send names of people, particularly prisoners, we'll send them a national newsletter. And so, like you said so well, Anna, we started in 1972 in Texas. We always felt when we moved to Washington in 1985 that if we could survive prison reform in Texas, we could survive it anywhere. And so we ended up in DC, and since we have been in DC, which is now going on 35 years, we now have chapters in Africa. And I hope Peter planned to be the leader of our main chapter, Pan-African Cure, would be with us today. He planned to. I think the problem might be it's just a time frame. It might be 2 a.m. there, whatever. But anyway, he still may join us. Who knows? But just let me just end up by saying this is so very, very gratifying to have California Cure with the kickoff that you're having. It's we have worked for many, many years trying to have one, but we never thought we would have the structure that you put together and also the talent that you have, and look forward to hearing about what you're planning to do and how you're set up. It's really wonderful. I think when we think of California, it's the biggest prison system in the country, and we have for many years tried to have one, and now our dreams have become reality. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're very glad to have your support, and it's really quite something to learn about how much this movement has grown. Now we'd like to introduce you to all of our board members. So our board positions are part of the enduring structure of Cure California. These positions are held for about a year and oversee Cure California's overall administration and operation. You can learn more about these positions on our website, which we'll show you a little bit later in this meeting. So today we'll hear from 3 of our board members. We still have a couple of positions open, vice chair and secretary. So please keep that in mind if you'd like to become part of the core team. First, I'd like to introduce Orla Bewley. Orla is our chair and has been with us since the beginning. So.
I thank you, Anna, and I just want to say that it is quite an honor and a privilege to be here in this meeting with such talented co-workers that I've been working with over the last, I don't know, 6 months to try to get to this point now. And I wanted to say, I'm a formerly incarcerated person, and I have just completed and discharged my parole, so I am completely out from underneath the CDC, California Department of Corrections. They are no longer, no longer beholding to them. But for so long, I had a different dream, like Charlie, in a sense. I didn't know what, like I had so much shame and guilt and remorse around being a part of the criminal justice system, being incarcerated, being that person. And I wanted to hide that in the darkest corner of my room and pretend like that wasn't me. But I knew that couldn't be. That was now my experience. And so for a long time, I wanted to know, what can I do with this? What can I do with this? And I would literally pray about, like, how am I gonna take this shame and guilt and remorse and that whole experience and make that worth something? And in my inbox about 6 months ago showed up this invite to Cure California, and I thought, well, I'll just show up over there and see what happens. And then that started the ball rolling, and it just brought me to this position here where I feel so like honored to be able to be in a position to possibly make an impact in a positive way, use my experience, and also with this talented team, as Charlie mentioned, to do something positive. So I'm just so very grateful. I'm really hopeful for the future. I feel like this is exactly the right time and the right place to be making a difference and an impact. So thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Orla. I just realized that maybe I should also inform everybody that we are recording this meeting, and so if maybe that's not something you're comfortable with, you could turn off your camera if that's something you'd like to do. The only reason why is because a lot of people wanted to join, and we know that they maybe had some other conflicts or something like that, and so we wanted to make the meeting available to people who weren't able to join the live session. So just thought I'd make that announcement just to be totally transparent. So thank you again, Orla. We're all very grateful to have someone like you who is super dedicated and passionate. And we need people like you to help us realize the vision that we have for Cure California. Next, I wanted to introduce Danny Sato, who is our treasurer. Danny joined us just a little over a month ago and has been very, very, very helpful getting us our financial infrastructure set up. So Danny, without further ado.
My name is Danny Saito. I'm helping out as treasurer, keeping track of the money coming in and the money going out. I'll be issuing accounting reports and keeping us current with the tax filings. Our annual minimum membership fee is $5, and we're also accepting donations. Right now, the donations are not tax deductible for the donors because we're still applying for tax exempt status with the IRS. the money is going towards uh, internet fees, postage, envelopes, papers, and things like that. And it's all for a very worthy cause. So I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Danny. We are, yeah, so happy to have you. Like I said, with everybody, we need all the help we can get as a grassroots organization. Our team members have diverse backgrounds and skills. And we know especially now, as we've been setting up this administrative framework where we understand well how crucial it is to have someone with financial expertise to help us build a lasting foundation. Having that fiduciary structure allows us to focus on the important advocacy and reform work that we're so ready to do. Before we get to our next speaker, I wanted to acknowledge Peter, who Charlie mentioned is our Pan-African representative for CURE, and he was able to join us. So welcome, just wanted to say hello. Danny mentioned donations. So if you're interested in donating to our efforts, please contact Danny so he can discuss the options that you have to do that. So you'll find his contact information on the website, which I'm going to show you in just a few minutes, but we'll also drop his information in the Zoom chat here. So you can email him and get that going if that's something you'd like to do. And on that note, let me introduce our engagement officer, Eileen Hongo. I personally have known Eileen for several years now, and I just can't say enough nice things about her. She's touched many lives, inspired me to join CURE California, and is always hard at work helping people who have been impacted by the California criminal justice system. So.
Thank you, Anna. Oh, that dinner paid off, didn't it? I had to pay her to say all that. But thank you. Yes, I met Anna actually on my visits to the prisons. I started visiting prisons probably in 2007, off and on for school. I went back to school late in life and now got my social work degree, and I'm teaching in a reentry facility. But on my visits to the prisons, I was working with the elderly and working meaning volunteering, facilitating art workshops for those who were in hospice or those who were working with people in hospice and those with dementia. And it just broke my heart to see these men and women, frail, not even knowing where they are, right? So that's how I got my interest started. Regarding this position, the engagement officer, I don't know, we might have to change that officer because something about that term but it sounds so formal. But I'm basically here to welcome you and to invite you to engage in partnerships and collaborations. Though Danny is the fiduciary part of memberships, my part is to engage, about engagement, right? It's about passion, it's about heart, and it's about connection. Recently, I started to receive letters already from the men and women inside, and they're requesting assistance and information. And so it is our absolute goal that no one is ignored or forgotten. So soon we'll be starting on a newsletter that connects the inside and the outside. Your participation is welcome. And it's through these connections that we can engage in meaningful and progressive reform. So I invite you, we need your input, your energy, and your ideas and your passion. So thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Eileen. Yeah, that's a good note about the name. So of the engagement representative or ambassador or something like that might be better. So one of the things that we've been working very hard on in preparation for this launch, and which we're very proud to show you today, is our website. So I'm actually going to share my screen to give you a little preview. I'm not going to go into too much detail today, but we're going to drop the website information for you into the chat. So we'll put a link in there so that you can check it out. But first, I'd very much like to give a shout out to Mike Lefevre, who designed our wonderful logo, which you can see at the top here. Mike has been with us since the beginning and co-chairs our Compassionate Release Committee. And you'll get to hear about those committees in just a few minutes. On our website, you can learn about our mission, who we are, and the work we're currently doing. That's all. See? Ooh, pretty. And you can subscribe to our mailing list and send us a specific message if you like as well. So please feel free to explore and check that out. And in the long term, we actually hope that the website can become a resource for information to help those who are trying to navigate the criminal justice system. We also use the site to occasionally highlight various advocacy and awareness projects that are happening in California in the ongoing fight for meaningful criminal justice reform. One of these awareness projects comes from our next speaker, Ron Levine. Ron is an award-winning Canadian commercial photographer who has recently partnered with us to display on our website some of his work documenting incarcerated people's experiences. Our core concern here at Cure California is the human impact of incarceration, and we believe that Ron's work helps to humanize and destigmatize system-involved people. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce Ron and stop sharing my screen so he can give a brief presentation.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining me. And thank you to Eileen, who also got me into this. I've been photographing here. You know what I'll share screen first because my pictures are much better than my verbal chats. Here we go. There you go. So I've been photographing in prisons since 1996. And it's an ongoing project called Prisoners of Age. This has been about women and men living behind bars in geriatric prisons and facilities in Canada and the United States. And I first got hooked on this in 1996. I heard a Canadian Broadcasting Corporation documentary about the first prison in Northwest Alabama, first geriatric prison. And I called the producer who gave me the name of the warden, and eventually I got in. And I spent about 5 days photographing. So I'm going to run through some photos from the beginning. When I first went in there, I thought, this is insane. What can these guys possibly do to harm anyone on the outside? And I kept thinking, like, this is nuts. The whole idea of keeping these guys locked up in prison, it just makes absolutely no sense. But, you know, people were calling me naive. But at the same time, I felt this is insane to spend this kind of money to keep these guys in after 20, 30, 40. One guy was in for 52 years that I photographed at Angola. So I kept shooting. I called up Jonathan Turley, who's the director of POPS, Project for Older Prisoners in Washington, D.C. And he gave me the name of a few other locations, a few other prisons that held a lot of elderly. And so I started photographing, started going from one prison to the next, and put an exhibition together that showed at Alcatraz. It was the first exhibition by a private person at Alcatraz back in 2001. And I kept shooting. And when Eileen asked me if I had any images, I said, sure, you can use these images, no problem. And I'm glad to share them with you guys and for you to use them on the website, because I try to get them out as much as possible. The exhibitions only go so far, the book only goes so far, but to get people to share them, on some of them, they've been used for book covers and for different projects. In 2003, I started actually shooting at women's prisons. And I started at the CCWF and a couple of women's prisons in Canada. So California holds a place in my heart. And before the pandemic, I was spending a lot more time down there, photographing and teaching at a vocational school with 5 Keys before COVID hit. I'll run through these fast. I've got interviews with all these gentlemen and women, as well as photographs. And like I said, I try to share them at universities. We do talks at different conventions, exhibitions, wherever we can. And this is throughout, like I said, Canada and the United States. There's some of the women from California, Nova Scotia, Ontario, Vancouver. I could talk about each of them, but I think it's better just to look at the photos. The last place I shot was Angola State Prison and Louisiana State Prison in Angola. And these are some of the images from there. So what's happening, I'll just show you some of the exhibition places. This is in Dublin. We had an amazing space there. Australia invited me in 2010. And this is the last show we had, was 2016 to 17 in Alcatraz, which pretty much culminated the project. And since then, I've been refused. I've been disallowed, not allowed to photograph in California prisons anymore for some reason. I think it's personal, but anyway, this is the book. The book is available as well. And if you want to see more, you can go to Prisoners of Age and see the images and some of the interviews, some of the documentaries over there. And I'm just glad, you guys asked me to be part of this, because I love to share these images. So I think you've got a good project going on. How do I get out of this? There we go. And I think back to you.
Thanks, Ron.
Anne. You're
Yeah.
welcome.
Virtual cheers for your work. We're very happy to have you sort of help us out, and we're so excited to be able to show that work, like you said, to try to keep sort of getting that that work out there, because your images are just so powerful, very impactful. So now that we've given you a general overview of who we are and introduced our board, we'd like to present to you our special issue committees to talk in more detail about the work we're hoping to hit the ground running with. Aside from the board, which forms the administrative structure of Cure California, our committees form the foundational framework for the advocacy and reform work that we do. As a member-driven organization, we at Cure California tailor our efforts according to both the interests of our hardworking volunteers and what we see as the most concerning problems of the current California criminal justice system. To enable this work, we've formed various special issue committees, which are made up of volunteers dedicated to specific subjects. Each committee has a chair who regularly updates the board on the work that they're doing. We'll hear from our committee chairs now, but first I'm going to share my screen once more so that we can have a little bit of visuals while people describe the work that they're doing with these special issue committees. So this is our issues page, just to show you all, and more of Ron's amazing work. And we also have a link to his Prisoners of Age website as well on our website. So first up for our committees, I'd like to invite Eileen Hongo to talk about our compassionate release.
Hi, okay, I am back. Sorry, my mute button. My partner, Mike, is trying to log on and he can't seem to get in. So I don't know if Anna, maybe, or let's send him a link. He just texted me, he's trying to get in. But so anyways, compassionate release. So a lot of times people don't know what compassionate release is. And it's sometimes called medical release. And it offers the terminally ill an opportunity to be released to die at home or outside of prison. The two main obstacles for compassionate release, ironically, are time and place. Time, because the bureaucratic process of approvals and signatures often takes longer than the patient has to live, and they often end up dying before they're released. The second obstacle is place. They don't have family. If they don't have family or place to go, the prison medically cannot release them out into the streets. And, sadly, traditional nursing homes may be reluctant to admit a patient with a conviction history. So tragically, if there's not a hospice or hospital on the prison site, patients can end up dying alone in an outside hospital, shackled to a bed. So can you imagine being shackled, not only being shackled to a bed alone, but this doesn't even account for the costs of transporting the patient by ambulance with the required 2 to 3 guards outside their door, right, around the clock, right? So they could be in hospice or hospice type conditions for weeks, but there's round the clock guards right outside their door. So our goal in the Compassionate Release Committee is to expedite the process of release so they can go home to die. And the greater vision we have really would be to have a place where they can be released and cared for by trained caregivers, like my co-chair and friend, Mike Lefebvre. I met Mike when I was facilitating workshops at the prison hospice in Vacaville. Vacaville actually has the only licensed hospice in California, but other prisons do have hospice type services and facilities. Mike was a trained caregiver there in the pastoral care program. And if he is in, I can't see, but I hope he's in. And if not, I will have him come back because I know he's trying to get in.
Yeah, I think we're trying to work on that right now. So
I sent him a link, so we'll see how that works.
apologies, everyone. My cat keeps jumping up on the desk. So I keep trying to throw him off. It's the work from home life, right?
Another interesting part is really the cost, right? The cost of caring for, as like in Ron's images, right? The older elderly adults. I also wanted to throw in maybe the men and women who have dementia, right? Cognitive disabilities, particularly Alzheimer's disease. So a lot of these men and women don't even know where they are, why they are there, and yet they end up dying, right? Because Alzheimer's is a terminal disease. So they end up dying not knowing where they are. So it's extremely sad. But I don't want to hold up the program, so we can maybe go back to Mike. Oh, there he is. I hope he's in.
Mike, are you with us? I think we just were able to get you to join. Yes, I see him.
Yep, I see.
And
Talk about jumping in, right?
just in time.
Hello?
There he is. Mike, I just introduced you.
Oh, hi. Well, what did you want me to say? Something about the hospice or?
Well, basically, Mike, I just told them that I met you in Vacaville. And if you can tell us a little bit about your experience as a hospice caregiver and why compassionate release is so important.
Oh, yeah, sure. Is my video on? Can you see me?
No, we can't see you, Mike. But we can hear you fine.
Okay. Yeah, I worked in the hospice at Vacaville, and at that point, I think they had a 1 year, they had to be diagnosed with less than 1 year to live. I don't remember 6 months or 1 year to live. And the bureaucracy sometimes took longer than that. And sometimes inmates wouldn't last that long anyway. I understand under the new guidelines, they will be allowed to have 2 years before diagnosed with 2 years to live and start the process. I think it might have been a better idea to streamline the bureaucracy, but that's what they've come up with. And I think it's going to be hard for doctors to say 2 years as hard as it was for them to say 1 year. I think it's important because there are a lot of inmates that get their compassionate release. And if they are lucky enough to get that and be able to get out because they have family or somewhere to go, that is great for them. But not everybody has someplace to go. And the people that don't have someplace to go deserve the same opportunities that the ones that do have someplace to go have. So if an inmate is in there and he is dying and he has no family, or he's so old that most of his family has gone past on themselves, I think it's nice that he has the same opportunity, that he can come out and die peacefully in a environment that is not prison. And I think that's what this is about. And I hope we can get something together to where we can start doing that fairly soon.
Mike, I have a question for you. What was it like for you, watching these guys?
Well, it was, I sat with guys, and I started because an old friend of mine went in there. And but by the time I went through all the training and everything, he had already passed away. So I kept doing the training and everything. And these guys would go in there, and sometimes they were able to talk to you and tell you, like I knew one guy that had been in and out of the hospice 4 times. He would get in there and he'd start to do better, and they would put him back out, and then he'd deteriorate and go back in. Sitting visual with guys, their plan was no inmate dies alone. So as soon as they went to where they couldn't talk or do anything else, somebody would sit with them. And that was one of my jobs. I would go in there and sit with them. And I would, if there was letters there, I would read letters to them. Sometimes they were in Spanish or something else, and I would try, but it wasn't always great. If they had a Bible or a Quran or whatever was sitting next to their table, I would read that to them too. And I don't know if they ever heard. I can just only hope that if they did, I was hoping that I could provide a little bit of comfort for them in their last remaining hours. And I hope that I did. But you never know at that point.
Okay, well, our work is cut out for us then. So if you are interested in compassionate release, please do join us. Thanks, Mike.
Oh yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, Eileen and Mike. Yeah, this is definitely a very important issue, and we'd really like to get to work on it. So we're excited to do that. Next, we have Jane Dorotic, who's going to speak about Drop LWOP.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Jane Dorotic. I am formerly incarcerated. I spent 19 years behind bars for a crime I didn't commit. And finally, thanks to the amazing work of Loyola Law School Project for the Innocent, my wrongful conviction was overturned and I'm now an exoneree. I learned a little bit about CURE while I was inside. I learned an awful lot of things while I was inside. And I was always very impressed with CURE's commitment to rehabilitation and reducing mass incarceration. I didn't have an LWOP sentence myself, but I was completely overwhelmed with the whole subject of mass incarceration and how it was so easy for the world to lock people up and throw away the key, especially women. And I knew so many women inside who were here in prison for a single crime committed many years ago under the duress of domestic violence, disciplinary free their whole time in prison, programming, bettering themselves and their community, and yet they had this awful LWOP sentence, life without the possibility of parole. So basically they were looking forward to a slow death behind bars. I also met Eileen while I was inside. Eileen Hongo brought in her art group and really focused on elderly and those that were isolated. And that was something that I had a great passion for. And I met Ron Levine when he came and did some photography at CIW. So it's great to kind of come full circle here. I also work with other organizations, the California Coalition of Women Prisoners, CURB, or California's United for a Responsible Budget, and a little work with Loyola Project for the Innocent. I'm so grateful to them for getting my conviction overturned. So Drop LWOP. Drop LWOP is actually a movement. It's a coalition of organizations and individuals who are committed to seeing an end to life without parole, this draconian sentence, also known as death by incarceration. Drop LWOP is led by formerly incarcerated individuals and the families of those serving LWOP sentences and advocacy groups. It's committed to abolishing the other death penalty through legislative action, through direct support of individuals serving life without parole, and by changing the culture of perpetual punishment and uniting California against life without parole. It's a relatively new movement. It was started in 2014 by women, incarcerated women, invested in overturning this draconian sentence. A little history of LWOP sentences. Here in California, we have some 5,000 individuals serving life without parole sentence. Nationally, there are about 50,000 individuals serving this sentence. And just for some context in terms of this country's approach to mass incarceration versus other countries, in the year 2013, the European Court of Human Rights abolished LWOP sentences. They felt that that sentence was cruel and unusual, not in keeping with the spirit of rehabilitation that should be the focus of all prisons. So they abolished that sentence in 2013. At that time in Europe, there were 41 individuals serving LWOP sentences. In this country at that time, there were 41,000 serving LWOP sentences. So 1,000 times greater than the incidence of sentences in Europe. So as the Drop LWOP movement grew, we all became aware that this is just a horrible, horrible sentence, and we need to work hard to overturn it. And so the focus of what the Drop LWOP movement does is to bring together organizations that for decades have been successful and in passing legislation and providing pathways for thousands of Californians. That may take the picture of supporting individuals through a commutation process, thanks to Governor Brown and somewhat Governor Newsom. He could step up a little more, but somewhat. There have been more than 150 individuals originally given the LWOP sentence, commuted by the governor, then gone in front of the parole board and been released. The recidivism rate for that group is 0%, absolutely 0%. So building on the leadership of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people and their families, the Drop LWOP Coalition has built a broad and powerful base of constituents in every district. The number of organizations signed on now supporting the Drop LWOP movement is more than 100. So in looking at this committee and this focus, because it aligns so much with CURE's philosophy, and because also it's such an important movement, if you are interested in being part of this committee, we make it very easy for you. The movement is already going forward. We have all sorts of toolkits. We have a simple letter that you can sign on to that says to Gavin Newsom, across the board, abolish LWOP sentences, move them all to the possibility of going in front of the parole board. It's an absolutely safe move for you because they're going to go in front of the parole board and the parole board will still assess their level of risk to the community, their public safety, and make a decision there. So you risk nothing, Gavin Newsom, if you do this. So that's one of the major pushes. And as I said, it takes all sorts of other different angles, from individual support to legislative support across the board. And I'm happy to say the California Penal Code Revision Committee is dedicated in this next year to really focusing on finding better relief for those serving LWOP sentences. They haven't quite gone as far as saying they're going to advocate for an across the board Drop LWOP, but we're getting close there. So that's some of the effort that the Drop LWOP movement has already had. And again, I would really encourage you to join us. You can be as involved as you would like to be, from a simple adding your name to a sign-on position to much, much more. So thank you for hearing about it. It's so important, and please do join. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. Yeah, we agree that it's a very important work that needs to be done. Your story is representative of so many heartbreaking stories out there that are related to LWOP sentences. Next, we have our Committee on Restorative Justice, which Orla Bewley is actually going to speak to us now about that.
So, hi, restorative justice. I was first introduced to restorative justice as a concept and an actual philosophy while I was still incarcerated, and we had the Insight Prison Project came in for over 2 years, and we met every month and sat in circles and talked about the harm that we caused ourselves, harm that was caused to the community, harm that was caused to the victims in the cases, and really and I finally saw an approach to the criminal justice system that finally made sense to me, because the punitive system that was currently in place just didn't seem to make much sense to me. It seemed like it caused more harm than it did anything else. So restorative justice is a philosophy. It's a huge umbrella. There's a lot of pieces to it, and for where it fits into CURE at this point is it's a committee that is just forming. So there are so many options available to us on what we want to work on. So once the committee starts, my thought is that we will kind of take a census on those that are interested, and pick some issues that we want to really focus on. A couple of the ideas being like there are so many, like there's a movement now in California, as particularly certain counties, the district attorney and the probation officers in that county are looking to alternative ways to sentence individuals, particularly for low level, nonviolent crimes, but also possibly other crimes too. And it's a way, instead of sending people to prison, an opportunity for them to do true restoration to the community, to their victims, to be redeemed. So yeah, so I think there's a lot to be said about restorative justice, in many ways it brings back into the community a way to deal with the harm that was caused, and looking at it in a holistic way, rather than how do we punish an individual, send them away, put them away, disappear them behind barbed wire and electric fences, and make it pretend like it didn't happen, and then that person comes back out into the community with maybe even more damage than they went in, and continues the harm. So there again, like I said, there's a lot of information, a couple of videos on the page. So if you want more information on what this committee actually does, what restorative justice is about, and the hope that it can bring, I'll just leave it with this thought. I look at restorative justice as a light in a very dark system, and it's a way out that makes sense, and it's a way that can cause healing for all that are involved. They have a saying that says, hurt people, and healed people, heal people. And that's kind of the idea. So yeah, so if you're interested, click over on that link, and we'll go forward and do some work in that area.
Thank you, Orla. Yeah, and if anybody wants to read more about all this, you can see that we have buttons that say more information on our site. And so we've already written some things up on all of these issues. So please feel free to visit the site and look at that. And if you're interested in joining any of the committees, there's contact information for you on the website as well to get started with that. Finally, we have our committee dedicated to family outreach. And so I'd like to invite Charlene Niemi to talk about that briefly.
About 2.5 years ago, our son was arrested, and I was totally new and shocked by the whole system. And so going through that pain and that suffering caused me to become greatly involved in this movement. And I'm very grateful for California CURS to get this started. So the Care Harbor is another project that I'm working on. People have talked about mass incarceration in 2018, there were over 6.6 million people that were in the criminal justice system. 1.5 million in prison. The numbers are huge. And when you think about 6.6 million that are either in probation or parole or jails or state or federal prisons, there are family members involved with every single one of them. Many may be estranged from their loved ones. Families like my son had, we were extremely involved with all of that. But where do you go? What can you do? What's the process? What can help? I was told at one point that you bring tea and a blanket, meaning that you provide comfort. And that to me has sustained me. So the purpose of this group right here for me is to, how do we help others? Where is a place where you can go to find out where to go for help? Right now, I'm reaching out to all the Facebook pages that I belong to find out our son was just released on Tuesday. And so what's the next step? Yeah. What's the next step? What can I do to help? What are some issues that he's going to go through? What are some issues that we go through as the family? There is very little for adult family members. And that's, there are a lot of resources or some resources for minors with a parent that's incarcerated. But what if you have a grandson that's incarcerated? Or what if you're a young adult with someone incarcerated? Where do you go if you're a parent of someone incarcerated? And so that's my plan in high schools, yes. And how do we help the family members? And so that's my goal for this committee. So if you're interested in joining, please reach out.
Thank you so much. Yeah, as we mentioned, this is also another very important issue. You know, the criminal justice system affects so many different people, including family, loved ones, and others. So, you know, again, these special issue committees are just some of the issues that we're going to begin working on. So I'll say again that if you're interested in joining one of these committees, we have contact information listed on our website. And so you can just click that more information button and use the relevant contact information to get started and get involved. So for now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen again, and we have more exciting things to talk about. And so one of the other things we'd like to do before beginning to wrap up this meeting is introduce you to a couple of other U.S. CURE state chapters. This is in part to thank these wonderful people, as they've been integral to our ability to set up CURE California and to get to where we are today. Additionally, we also wanted to kind of demonstrate to you that even though we are a budding organization, we're very lucky to have a wide-reaching and powerful support network behind us. And this is all because of CURE. Because of people like these, and hopefully you too, if you join us, we have no doubt that we'll be able to bring about meaningful change. First, I'd like to introduce Kay Perry, who leads Michigan CURE, the Michigan CURE chapter, to talk a little bit with us today. So Kay, if you're ready.
I'm ready. I have been running Michigan CURE since 1989, so been around for a while. I want to thank you for inviting me to this meeting, and I especially want to acknowledge the effort it's taken you to get as far as you have. I'm impressed with all you've done, and I know how difficult it is because I started the chapter of I helped start the chapter of Michigan CURE. And I just want to make a couple of comments. I am currently the Secretary of National CURE, have been the chair at one point. You know, you're embarking on something that is really difficult in some regard. You know, running a CURE chapter is difficult, but it's such important work. And I just want to reinforce the importance of what it is you're doing. Because you're lifting up and listening, first of all, to people who are incarcerated and their family members. And I have been the family member of someone who's incarcerated, and I know how difficult that is, and how you feel like you know that everything's wrong and you don't know what to do about it. And you don't know who to talk to, and you don't know who's going to listen to you. And, you know, and I actually went to organizations to say, you know, let me help. And they weren't interested in grassroots people, which I sort of understand. but there aren't enough grassroots organization, and that's what we bring to the picnic. You know, there's no way that any one advocate or one group can change everything that's wrong with the criminal justice system. There's far too much wrong. But if they don't hear the voices of the people who are incarcerated and their family members, they're missing out on, in some regards, on the experts. The people who know what's going on in that system and what's wrong with that system are the people who are or have been incarcerated and the people who have a loved one who are. So that's the voice we bring, and it's extremely important. I'm glad to hear that you're engaged in with other groups, because I think the collaboratives and the coalitions are important in order to make things happen. And the other thing I would encourage you to do, and I think you're already doing it, is, you know, I think the system is designed to isolate people, especially the incarcerated, but also their family members. That's the worst, to me, that's the most evil aspect of criminal justice, is that it isolates people and it isolates the incarcerated. And I would urge you to not forget that that's part of your role, is to not let those people be isolated. Let them know what's going on. Let them know how they can help. You've got some very, very bright people who are incarcerated, and some people who know how to write letters and know how to talk to people and know how to educate others. And you need to use those people. I'm saying use in the nicest sense of the word. Use those people to help get the word out and to make that system better, because they're the ones who do get it. So again, thank you very much for what you're doing. Don't forget to ask questions if you need it. I mean, I'll help you if I can. And I think any chapter of CURE, the leaders of the CURE will help you if they can. Charlie and Pauline will help you if you can. So don't hesitate to reach out if there's something you think we can do. So keep up the great work. I look forward to all you're going to accomplish. As you know, many of us look to the California system when it comes to changes in the system. Sometimes as much as you don't like about it, you sometimes are leaders, as are every chapter. So we're looking for all that you can accomplish so we can replicate it in Michigan and elsewhere. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Kay. Yeah, the note you had about the way the criminal justice system isolates people, I think is very important, and it's something that I'll actually mention towards the end of this meeting when it comes to writing letters to people who are incarcerated. So, but again, thank you. We're very happy to have you and have your support, and you've just been so helpful. And another person who's been incredibly helpful to us is Diane Tramutala Lawson, who leads Colorado CURE. And so I'd like to invite Diane to speak with us for a couple of minutes.
Diane, you're still muted.
Sorry, I didn't know. Thank you for inviting me. And I say a lot of the same things that Kay mentioned are important because when I started this in 1990 with 5 of us, Charlie Sullivan, who could sell you anything, said that it's just a little volunteer job and it takes no time at all. Well, I got some cheap swampland in Florida. No, anyway, it's absolutely invigorating and it takes so much time. But through it, how I got into this is I was a high school teacher. A lot of my students, unfortunately, ended up in jails, prisons, juvenile system. And through them, I met my lifer husband. I visited him 20 years in these godforsaken prisons in the state. And then he finally came home, was home 15 years. Unbelievable. As a lifer, they had a chance for him for parole. And he passed away almost 5 years ago this March. I miss him a lot. He was a real activist. And through him and through my former students, I decided to get involved and started CURE. We work very closely, like Kay mentioned, with ACLU of Colorado. Last year, we got the death penalty abolished in Colorado with a lot of groups working together. There's CSOR, AFC, which are groups devoted only to sex offender issues. And I don't want to use sex offender anymore. We're trying to get away with that terminology and others like a person convicted of a sex offense. Okay, and that's huge. And compassionate release in Colorado, we have a law, it's called special needs parole, and they parole about 2 people on that. And we are pushing, there's a bill in the legislature now to make that more effective than it is. And the governor has only commuted like 8 people since he got in over almost a year ago. And that's typical nationwide. And we think there's so many people that are elderly, like that great work that Ron did, that it breaks your heart. One man just left at 84. He has dementia. Finally, his niece, it took her 10 years to get him out of state to her home. So there are just so many things that I'm glad to answer any questions if people have, or, I posted in the chat how to get a hold of me. We're also looking at a bill to get rid of felony murder. I have 11 people on my board who do such good work. And one of them, her son's been in over 20 some years on felony murder. He didn't commit the murder, but he was along when someone was killed. And so we also want to get rid of life without parole, but also life with parole. Okay, so LWOP and LWP. And also one of the things we're working on is getting rid of the person's a child or juvenile convicted of a sexual offense off the registry. That is a huge bill going right now in Colorado. And we have a shorter sentence time. I call it a sentence because I hate the legislature. Anyway, it's from February last week until about May, I think is all our session is based on the pandemic. And I feel really fortunate that the Department of Corrections every Friday hosts a virtual Zoom meeting and answers questions on any subject that you might have about our 20 prisons or your loved one. Not if it's your loved one, then you contact them privately. But that's every Friday for a half hour at least. I owe that to the Oregon Cure Director, Colette Peters, who's outstanding, who started weekly meetings with families way back when the pandemic started. She's outstanding. So you might look at something in California to get these people on board to share, like Kay said, they like to isolate people. Well, that doesn't. I asked them on Friday's meeting yesterday, how many people were in the jails from the backlogged Department of Corrections. They didn't have an idea, but they're going to Monday. Thank you. Okay. So I try not to talk as vehemently as I am here. I put on the Susie teacher hat, whatever it is, when I have to talk to the powers that be. Anyway, thank you again for having me. And I'm really impressed with all the great work that you guys have done, and welcome to California, Cure California.
Thank you, Diane. You have such a fiery passion, and I love it. It's infectious. I think it's really great. That's another thing, getting started. It's really hard work to get all this administrative and organizational structure set up to get going, and especially just the criminal justice systems, the state systems, the federal systems, places in different countries and everything like that. They can be very daunting and overwhelming. And so it's really great to have that sense of community to be able to kind of keep up the energy levels, and so that, to keep up the fight and the work that is so important. So thank you again. And so in beginning to close this relaunch meeting, I'd like to again thank everyone who spoke with us today, as well as all of you who came to listen, support, and learn about Cure California. We hope that you found this to be informative and maybe even a little inspiring. Our core team, and you know who you are, has worked so hard in setting up the organizational framework for Cure California and to bring us to where we are today. But now we are ready for the real work. And with that, we need help from people like you. We hope you'll join us in whatever capacity that you can. We plan to have monthly member meetings, and special issue committees will also have their own meetings. The frequency of these committee meetings will be based on the needs of the work and the preferences of the committee members. Moving forward, if you want to know when these meetings are and other kinds of information, important information, we'll post a calendar on the Get Involved page of our website. And this is where we'll post meeting dates and Zoom links. So please be sure to check the site for updates. And also, if you're interested in joining us, please sign up for notifications on our Get Involved page. You can simply enter your email under Join Our Mailing List. And if you'd like to send us a particular message, there's another window just below that where you can also send us a message in addition to subscribing to get notification. And if you're interested in joining a particular special issue committee, you can feel free to email the appropriate person by going to the issues page and clicking the more information button. I believe we also put into the chat that if you have any questions, while we still have a few minutes left today, I have a couple more things and a request from people. So feel free to drop questions in the chat. Otherwise, you can also email us. So again, on that Get Involved page, there's a function where you can email us a message. And so if you have a question, please feel free to contact us. We're happy to speak with you. So in addition to our website, we've also created a social media account. We started with Facebook, and we'll grow as needed, maybe to Instagram or even Twitter, who knows. You can find our Facebook page by clicking the icon in the upper right-hand corner of our website. You'll see the little F there. And please give us a follow, because this is where we're going to share information related to current issues and events related to Cure California's mission, different awareness and advocacy campaigns that we believe in, and other kinds of resources. And finally, I'm ecstatic to announce that we're already getting a ton of mail. We set up a PO box for Cure California in part so that we can correspond with people who are incarcerated. Since our launch has been announced, we've been receiving dozens of letters. We are very eager to respond to these, but we've realized that we need help from people like you. The amount of mail that we've already received means that we'll likely end up creating a specific committee that is dedicated just to correspondence. So, communicating with and responding to the requests of incarcerated folks as best we can is an incredibly important aspect of the work that we want to do. So many people have to deal with a deep sense of alienation while they are incarcerated. We want to make sure that these folks feel heard. So we'd like to close with a request for correspondence volunteers. If you're interested in helping us, please send us a message to our Cure California email address. You can find this listed on our website, or you can message us directly within the site under the Get Involved page. It's under Contact Us. And we'll also drop that email address in the chat here. But I can't really emphasize this enough as far as a lot of the criminal justice issues that we want to work on are kind of a long-term, long-haul kind of work. But writing letters to people who are incarcerated and telling them, we hear you, we see you, that's something that we can do right now. And so, but we do need people to help us write letters. So please, if you can't commit to anything else, but you can do that, it would be so helpful. And it's such a meaningful thing that you can do. So if there's nothing else, I think that's all I have on the agenda. And yeah, thank you again to everybody joining us. We're very excited to get going, and we're so happy to have such a wonderful group of people and just this huge network to support us.
Hey, Anna, can we get a quick word hello from Peter? He was able to get in, and he's our Pan-African, I'm not sure, consultant. Peter, can you just say hi to us for us?
Oh, you're
on the spot.
Yeah, thank you very much. It is good morning. Oh, okay, good morning, my American friends. Glad to be with you. We are at 11 p.m. here. I'm so happy that I was able to join into the session and just listen and learn so much more of what you have lined up to make Cure California successful. Yeah, Pan-Africa Cure is stationed in Kenya, and we are looking forward to expanding the networks with the Cure chapters like yours and the broader global community of Cure. And it's exciting that you have lots of activities lined up, and there's a lot of learning that we from this part of the world should be able to acquire from you people. We'll be learning what you do, how you pursue your goals. And I think what Pan-Africa Cure will be doing is to compare notes with whatever you're doing on your end and what we are doing, these sides, and how we can match them and just make sure that we are moving at the same pace towards achieving the main mission and objective of International Kiwa, and all the affiliates. Thank you so much. Please feel free to visit our website, panafricakiwa.org. Yeah, it is up and running, and there's a lot that we'll be visiting all the websites of the Kiwa chapters in the US and maybe worldwide. And we also look forward to you learning from what we are planning to do. Ours is they're just a conglomeration of ideas, because we should be working in so many countries with the different governance styles, and it's very broad. But we look forward to learning so much from you and exchanging of the ideas. I'm too talkative, please forgive me. I have to withdraw and stop speaking. Be blessed and stay safe.
Thank you, Peter. I think we can equally say that we can learn just as much from you. And so I'd say I'll speak for the group and say that we're very happy to have you here, and that we'd love to connect and, like you said, compare notes, because, this isn't just a California issue or a United States issue. It may change in form, it may change in its appearance, but incarceration and criminal justice reform is something that affects the entire world. So thank you again for being here and speaking with us. And if there's nothing else from my fellow core Cure California team, I'm going to stop the recording.
Anna?
Yes.
Okay, just a quick shout out. I understand we have representatives from Oregon. Here from Oregon, CJ? The CJ screen? If they want to say hi.
Okay, yes, Cheryl and I are here. And yes, and the only thing I want to add to, like Diane said about Colette Peters, the director of Oregon Department of Corrections, she's been good to work with. She's also trying to implement the Oregon way, which is patterned after Norway somewhat. It's a slow process, and who knows how long it will take. Also, she's also pushed that there are no inmates in prison. They are adults in custody. So we've gone to using that term instead. And just like, the corrections officers don't want to be called guards either. So Cheryl and I have been involved since 2013 when our son was involved. We joined the board in 2014 when there was only 3 other board members. So everything I've heard today sounds great. So keep up the good work, and if we can help in any way, feel free to get a hold of Oregon Cure. We're on the website.
Thank you, CJ. I thought I saw in the chat somebody from Indiana Cure was here. I don't know if they're still here.
There's 2 of us.
Hello. Oh, hi. Yes, there you are. You were having trouble getting in. I'm glad that you were able to.
Yeah, apparently they don't like Firefox as a browser. I had to go to Google to get in.
I see. There we go. Yeah.
Richard, Richard there and Anna, there are 3 of us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Kat's in here too, but she's not on video.
Wonderful to have you with us.
No?
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. I've been furiously taking notes for ideas for our chapter.
Yeah, great. We can always connect as well and talk more. Yeah, I think it's all about a group effort.
Absolutely. I've got a bunch of ideas I'd like to share too, but I'll do those through the email.
Okay.
Because I got in late. Don't want to string this out too long.
Sure. No, that's fine. I think at this point I'll stop the recording so that it's kind of a nice little end to things for us. And we can always keep chatting if we want. But with that, I'll end the recording so that we can, have this up for people who weren't able to join us for the live meeting. Unless Eileen or Orla, is there anything else that I should note before I stop the recording? No, good. Okay.